Welcome back to the Point of Order podcast, an inside look at California politics in the state legislature. I am your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover, and excited to be joined. It's been a while, actually.
It has.
By my Chief of Staff, Teresa Trujillo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Josh, for
Appreciate
having me.
it, yeah. We had another person have a conflict. I was going to use it like safely, yeah. We were supposed to have Patrick Aarons on the show this week, who is a good new colleague of ours on the other side of the aisle, and unfortunately couldn't make it. So we'll have to reschedule him for another day. Yeah. But thanks for filling in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's my lucky day.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, yeah, it's our lucky day. We're very excited. Lots to talk about. We're recording this a day late because of some of the craziness with the budget votes this week and some other bills and things like that. So it's a pretty crazy time. But before we get into all the stories of the week, let's talk about some more fun stuff, I guess.
Okay.
So how was your weekend? I'm bringing this up because I have something I want to share about my weekend.
Okay, good. That sounds fun. So my weekend was great.
Okay,
I
nice.
had the kickoff of concert season on Friday night with Dirk Bentley, of course, and Wheatland, which was super fun.
That's cool.
And then his opener is Zach Top, which is, I guess, pretty popular.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like really well attended. It was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Had a blast. Went with some people in the Senate that we know, some of our Senate colleagues or my Senate colleagues.
I did hear you had at one point an extra ticket.
I did.
I did not accept it because
you had to be home with the wife, I guess, huh?
Yes. which is wonderful.
Yeah.
She also very much judges my country music.
Oh, yeah.
My current country music interest.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a country music guy. I'm definitely not. But I will say I'm opening the door to, just occasional country listening.
Yeah.
And I like Dirk's.
Yeah,
Dirk's
more.
Cool.
You like it way more than you did back in the day, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I've definitely evolved, or I don't know, as I've gotten older, I'm like, I kind of get the vibe.
Yeah, it's a good listening music. It's just
exactly.
a good listening music.
It's not going to become my favorite music, but I don't have to be a hater. You know?
It could be good background or whatever.
Yeah. So Friday we were just hanging out, but that's when you went to the concert. But Saturday I went to a wedding, which I haven't done in a long time, and I might be over weddings. I think this is what I am. And it was a wonderful couple, honestly beautiful wedding. And actually really glad we went. It's kind of fun to get invited to a wedding, but I don't know. I'm just like, the farther I've gotten from my own wedding, I'm like, I'm starting to see them from a different perspective, you have your own, you're like, this is the best thing ever. And then you have your friends and family, really close friends and family, you're like, oh, this is really cool. And then now we're getting invited to, weddings we're less connected to. And it's like, huh. Yeah. So I don't know.
Well, if you're my age, you just don't get invited anymore because everyone's been married off at this point. I mean, my kids still could get married, of course, technically.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I don't know what wedding I'll ever get invited to, honestly.
I mean, I guess that's
a coworker potentially.
Yeah, I guess it has to be it's usually younger people. Yeah. So if you're not hanging out in that.
Yeah. That's true that my mom did get remarried a couple of years
Nicole
ago.
works with a lot younger people.
Yeah.
So
As do we. As do we.
So I'm like, all right. One of my really good friends got married recently. I will not say who. Okay. And I didn't get invited, so that was sad.
Oh.
Yeah. So I mean, whatever. It's fine.
It's fine.
It was out of state, so I probably wouldn't have gone anyway.
Oh, got it. Well, yeah, we've had we had a coworker too that got married.
Yeah.
A staffer.
That's true. Yeah, I did not go to that one either.
We didn't go to that one either. But what about your wedding?
Well, no, but it was just funny. It was it was a beautiful wedding. Everything, it was really nice. Really great people at our table. Okay. Had a lot of fun at dinner.
So it's through a Nicole connection.
Yeah, it's like her work. Yeah. Okay. And but the speeches, oh my God, you have the groom, the whatever, maid of honor, and best man speeches. Yeah. Those were fine. Those were solid, funny, really good. And then all four of the parents spoke. I swear the speeches went on for about an hour. Like just in total, in some of the 6 speeches, it was insane.
Yeah, that sounds like actually painful.
And it was so brutal. And like without oversharing, because if they ever listen to this podcast, they're gonna be like, "What?" Yeah, it was brutal.
Yeah,
it was like, yeah. So
I think that's evolved because that was not a thing when I got married.
Really, what do you mean?
I don't think so. I don't recall both my parents talking and both my husband's parents talking. I just don't really recall that. I mean, it's been forever ago, but
I'm trying to remember. This is so bad. Like my wedding, I know both our dads spoke.
Yeah.
And then obviously best man and maid of honor.
Yeah.
But I don't know if our mom spoke.
Yeah. I kind of think that that's like evolved or something.
Yeah.
Because
I think my
felt like
dad and my mom kind of spoke together, but like my dad kind of did the talking.
Yeah. It was like one parent per couple or something like that. That's
that actually sounds familiar. Like that's what happened at my wedding.
Well, and if you're going to speak, you don't need to speak for, 20 minutes each.
No. No, if I may say, the mom of the bride got up and warned everyone, this is going to be a while. Mm-hmm. So she was full disclosure, and then proceeded to sit down in a chair. And she had written a letter to her 22-year-old self, which is when she had her daughter or something like that. I don't remember. Gosh. I don't know. Maybe it was even younger than that, but she basically wrote a letter to herself and read the letter, and it was like 5 pages long.
Oh my gosh.
And it was like, what is happening? What is happening right now?
That's kind of crazy.
It was wild. But that being said, I mean, this is kind of honestly part of the fun of going to weddings is you get to just experience really random stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
But at my wedding, my dad spoke and had all my cousins and stuff basically presented me and my wife with every pair of shoes that I had ever worn in my entire life.
Are you kidding?
At the wedding. I'm not kidding. Not kidding. This is like a real thing. They had like bamboo sticks with shoes tied to them, like multiple long bamboo sticks.
Okay, so that's...
And they literally carried out like every pair of shoes I've ever worn in my life. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Okay, but there's got to be significance to that. Were you like obsessed with shoes or what?
I mean, I did like shoes growing up, but they just saved every pair of shoes I ever wore. It was wild. It was wild. Like they had boxes of shoes in our house, apparently.
My gosh, that's hilarious.
And then they never told me why they had all those shoes, but like apparently this was their plan all along.
That's pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And it was so awkward.
We saved nothing, so that would never happen to our kids.
Well, so the funny thing is afterwards, I'm like, so what do we do with all these shoes? Like, we lived in an apartment at the time, right? So they're still hanging like up in the rafters in my parents' garage, I think.
They still have them.
I'm sure they do.
Great.
Yeah. That's my guess. I haven't checked in a while, but it was pretty funny. All right, so speaking of Dierks Bentley, all right, you got to help me out because I would say, opening, my interests to country, not like all country or whatever, but who should I listen to? Is basically what I'm asking.
Yeah.
But I pulled up the top 25 country artists on Spotify,
Yeah.
so I wanted to just get your opinion on a few of these. So, because I know you have strong opinions.
I do.
So number 1 on the list. This is based purely on followers and monthly listeners.
Yeah.
So it's not. I tried to take the bias out of this.
Yeah.
But Morgan Wallen, number 1.
Of course.
Obviously, pretty solid, right?
He's solid. I'm going to see him August 2nd.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you approve.
I approve.
I do like some Morgan Wallen, not going to lie. Jelly Roll, number 2.
I liked him. I saw him at Stagecoach last year. He's fun.
You know what I like about Jelly Roll is he's on a lot of my hip hop songs.
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's how he started.
Yeah. So like, I'm
fun.
like, okay. Like, he's got some really good songs with some of my favorite artists.
And he kind of has a classic rock sound a little too, which so he has kind of a mix of genres.
He has like a song I've been listening to with Post Malone.
Yeah.
That's like really good. Liar
I like that
or something.
Song.
Yeah,
I like that
it's
song.
like it's solid.
Yeah,
so
it's
I like
a good
his
one.
voice. Jelly Roll has a connection to my district and your hometown.
And my hometown.
He performed in Orangevale at
the Boardwalk.
The Boardwalk.
Oh yeah,
which is so crazy. Like that's pretty amazing. I don't know if he would do it today.
Yeah, probably not. But that is amazing. I love it.
That's so cool though.
Oh, it is cool.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Luke Combs.
Yeah, I mean, he's solid. I like him.
Yeah. Zach Bryan.
He's also, I really like him. He's great in concert.
You like Zach Bryan, okay.
He has a great sound.
Yeah, I haven't really heard a bunch of his stuff. Number 5's one of the people I love, and actually Nicole will listen to, which is Chris Stapleton.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I've seen him in concert. Once.
Is he amazing?
It was like one of my favorite shows I've ever had because his voice is just incredible. So and we were in the pit, and we were like, literally, it might have been the closest I've ever been to the stage. I think there might have been one like line in front of me.
That's
like
crazy.
One person in front of me.
Nicole still talks about her favorite national anthem ever.
Amazing.
Was Chris Stapleton. Is it the Super Bowl, I think? Or
no? I think it was.
Super
I think it was
Bowl,
the Super Bowl.
A few years ago. I can't remember which year.
Was.
But she still talks about that. And she's not like, again, she is hating on me for liking country right now. But she likes Chris Stapleton for sure.
The closest like a country music star can get to the Super Bowl apparently is the national anthem, even though it's like a very popular genre.
Oh, you mean like halftime show? They'll never have a country artist.
Except this year. This year is the first year. It's Carrie Underwood.
Oh, Carrie Underwood's the halftime show?
I believe so. I believe she's doing. I'm like that would be their first country act.
She would be good.
Yeah,
she's a great performer.
So. And she's definitely kind of pop country. So.
Yeah, she's got some pop stuff. Too. Some pop appeal. Bailey Zimmerman, I don't even know who that is.
He's an up and comer. He's actually toured a ton with Morgan Wallen.
Oh, okay.
I've seen him before. He's good. I like him.
Yeah. Dolly Parton, classic. I mean,
amazing.
Like,
she's like
some of
best.
these. I like this list because it's not all new people, but
I know.
a lot of it's new people. But
Dolly Parton.
She still has 16 million monthly listeners, which is awesome. Thomas Rhett, who I like a couple of his songs.
He's fine. He's fine. I mean,
Shania Twain.
Like seriously, Shania Twain. I mean, she was amazing back in I think the 90s or
it's been
whenever she was out. But that's forever ago, so that's bizarre.
Yeah. Kane Brown, I'm not a huge fan, but
not a fan. I've seen him in concert once, but no, it's whatever.
Riley Green,
I like. Riley Green, yeah, he's good.
I got it. I mean, this one, number 12, Johnny Cash.
Yeah, amazing.
Big, I mean,
amazing.
That's awesome. I think everyone.
Well,
loves
you've got the Johnny Cash Trail,
and we've got Johnny Cash Trail,
Folsom Prison Blues,
Johnny Cash Bridge. It's all about Folsom. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
I know one of your favorites. Luke Bryan. I don't even.
Trash.
I don't really know anything about him.
Anyway,
Trash.
can I say that?
Eric Church. You like Eric Church, though.
I like Eric Church. I love him.
And then we'll just fly through these last few. So Brooks and Dunn
is actually opening for Morgan Wallen.
Oh,
believe it or not, which is kind of fun.
I like Zach Brown Band. They're number 16. That's
so
cool,
you do. That's
I don't know.
fun.
I like their vibes.
Yeah, my niece loves them.
You got Jason Aldean on here. Rascal Flatts. Like, that's interesting. And then Kenny Chesney rounds it out at 25.
Yeah.
So, that's classic.
It's
Kenny's
fun.
Classic.
I like some of the later ones too.
Anyway, that's just
good.
funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm tinkering right now in the country space. But anyway, last topic before we get into stories of the week.
Okay.
Summer plans. You always have big plans. I ask you about your plans because I never have plans.
Yeah.
So.
I don't have big plans, but I have plans, and all my plans involve, for the most part, hiking.
Okay, yeah, that's fun.
I do like hiking, like hiking trip.
Sounds great.
I just got back from Mammoth, which was amazing. Did a lot of hiking.
Okay.
Going to Tahoe. The weekend after the 4th, I'm going to Tahoe.
Okay,
for a couple nights.
That's cool.
Concert, of course. Concert, hiking, that
sounds
kind of stuff.
like most of your trips.
Concert
or hiking.
Concerts or hiking.
Yeah.
And then the one I'm the most excited, and I'm going to Bend, Oregon with my family, with my sisters. My sisters and my mom, which is going to be a blast. My sister comes out every year from Kansas.
Are you taking the van?
Not taking the van. We're staying in a house. The van's new.
Okay,
so the van will be taken on a maiden voyage later this year.
Okay, all right.
Our trip is booked, but that's like September.
Fun.
But the one I'm most excited about is called Highland Ranch, and it's like some little place, bed and breakfast, kind of out in the middle of nowhere that Eric and I just stumbled upon last year when we went to Lhasa National Park. And so we are literally going back to Lhasa National Park just so we could stay in this place called Highland Ranch. It looks like a cowboy ranch. It looks amazing.
Awesome. Yeah,
it's just gorgeous. Cool. It's such a beautiful setting.
That's exciting.
And there's only I don't know, maybe 6 little cabins. That's it. So it's not that much. So we're going to go to Lhasa, and my husband has finally agreed to do the Lassen Peak hike with me. So we're going to do that.
All right.
So I convinced him. So that's
exciting.
that's the one I think him and I are both by far the most excited.
Okay. Yeah. That all sounds great. I'm going to Pismo Beach as always.
As you
every
always
year.
do,
with just 2 of my kids, and And then just a bunch of little stuff, throughout the summer. Like we've got rodeo this weekend, Folsom Rodeo.
Can't wait.
We're all going to that,
We're all
actually.
going to that.
And then, 4th of July.
4th of July, which we're doing the parade.
Oh, and the parade.
And I think I think almost our whole staff is going to
it's gonna be
it's gonna be
a
fun.
lot of people,
and they're all gonna walk along the car.
They're gonna be tired,
and it's not as hot this year, so we're lucky.
I think it's still gonna feel pretty hot.
But last year was 110, I think, and then this year's supposed to be in the 80s. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so much happier.
That was actually insane last year.
It was pretty brutal.
Was crazy
because you have to. I have to get there early because it's my car.
Yeah, you're donating the Bronco.
I'm donating for
the day. So that's
the
nice.
the killer Bronco that I have. I love it.
That'll be fun.
And so we got to decorate. So the staff has to get there early, and we decorate and get in the lineup and stuff like that. So I already looked at to see the latest time I could get there before the roads close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you don't need too much time, right?
I don't need that much time.
That's so funny. So just a bunch of little stuff.
That'll be fun though.
Aiden went to Six Flags yesterday with his youth group or whatever.
That's fun.
And had never wanted to ride the roller coasters. We had season passes at one point. He never would go on them.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
And so he texted me yesterday. He's like, Dad, guess what? I went on Medusa and I went on all this stuff.
Oh, good.
And I was like, finally, I'm not around, so you do it. And so now he's like, oh, I can do it now.
Oh, that's so awesome.
And he's our oldest, which is hilarious. The other two were already doing it, and our oldest was like,
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was so obsessed with roller coasters. Even when I was a small kid, and even when I was too small, my dad used to always go to the attendant or whatever and try to
That's funny.
Yeah. Try to get them to let me go on. And he's like, I'll be with her. It's totally fine.
That's funny.
I don't know if it ever worked. I don't recall. But I loved scary stuff when I was a kid. Yeah. I like it less now.
I still try to go on roller coasters now with my kids, but my back doesn't like it nearly as much as I used.
It's like our body.
I just hurt the next day. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive into our stories of the week.
Okay, perfect.
So the big one off the top, obviously, on Friday, Governor Newsom signed the budget, I guess the follow-up budget bill, but then he made it contingent upon, I feel like every week he signs a new budget bill. He made it contingent upon what passed yesterday, which was two pretty major pieces, other budget bills, but pieces of housing legislation. Probably the biggest CEQA reform. That's the California Environmental Quality Act that we've seen in California in a really long time. We've, for many, many years, applied CEQA reform to things like big sports stadiums and, very specific projects. But this would actually apply it pretty broadly to infill housing and, a number of other things as well. And so it's a pretty big deal. I didn't love everything in the bills, but I would say that on balance, the CEQA reform was something that we've been calling for a really long time, and I didn't think it would ever actually happen.
Exactly.
So that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, Republicans have been trying to get that passed for years. I mean, ever since for like a decade at least, and there's just no appetite for it amongst the Democrats, and it's like our housing and everything's so unaffordable.
Totally.
And it's like, if we're going to do them for the sports stadium, why don't we do them for residential housing? So why don't we try to make, everything more cheaper for Californians?
Yeah,
right?
totally.
But it's like, we're finally getting a new group, I feel like, of Democratic legislators that are realizing that we need to do something. We need to do something different.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect different results. We need to do something different. And so it's kind of nice. But we're still coming, we have bills now, and you have a pro-housing bill that's in the Senate that is coming, problems because they don't want help. It's like, I don't get it. The chair.
We actually passed, I think over 20 bills out of the Assembly this year, because the Assembly tends to be much more pro-housing. That moved to the Senate and are just hitting roadblock after roadblock. It's been rough. But this bill, I'm kind of shocked, honestly, that it got negotiated through. But, I guess you got to give some kudos to obviously the work of some people like Buffy Wicks, who has been fighting for housing and CEQA reform. Even, people like Senator Scott Wiener, who I disagree with on a lot of things.
Like everything except housing.
But
practically.
But the housing thing, he's been a really, strong proponent of reform, right? Which I think is good. And then obviously the governor has to sign these bills and made it the priority this year, which I think I do have to give him some kudos for that. Especially, when Governor Jerry Brown was in office, really was hammering on the need to do CEQA reform. He called it the Lord's work, and it just never happened. It literally never happened. The moment just was never right for it.
Yeah.
And this time sort of the stars aligned to make it happen. So.
They still had to put stuff in there though that just like really bothers me specifically. My biggest thing is I'm really into cooking. I love gas appliances, specifically a gas stove. Yeah. And they did kind of sneak that in there.
About like
SB 131.
Yeah, the gas hookups.
Yeah, they banned gas hookups for all new construction.
Yeah.
And
which is awful.
We pay the highest electricity costs in the country.
I know.
In the state of California.
Yeah, it's just more of this electrification sort of nonsense, honestly, where, again, I'm fine with consumers choosing electric stoves or electric cars or whatever they want to do. But if the state's going to mandate these things or prohibit certain technologies, I mean...
that are more affordable, though.
Yeah, that are more affordable,
this was supposed to be the year of affordability.
That's right.
The year of affordability. That's what the Dems said. It's the year of affordability.
Right,
and they're still doing this stuff. And it's going to make it more expensive to own a new home because our electricity rates, I think, it's 103% over above the national average for residential.
Yep.
It's
not to
insane.
mention the cooking impacts.
Yeah.
So which
are
real.
Which I care about. Yeah.
So does my wife and me. Honestly, I'm like I don't even know what I would do with an electric stove at this point. But one of the reasons I think some of the stars align. So there's this good piece in Politico. The abundance movement hits a labor wall in California. That's the title of it. We'll put it in the show notes. But basically, there was a book written by Ezra Klein this year called Abundance, and it's basically talking about how the Democratic Party needs to reform itself so that it's really working towards, more housing and more energy and more all these things, as opposed to being against all of, a lot of these things. I actually have it on my book list. I haven't read it yet. I do plan to read it at some point. But there's been a lot of pushback in California to that book. I know he had Gavin, the governor, had Ezra Klein on his podcast, and they had a conversation about it. But I think a lot of it came out of that, right, where the Newsom is really trying to embrace this sort of, movement in the Dem party. But it has hit a lot of backlash from labor groups and environmental groups and other things, right? Yep. Which has kind of been why they've never done it. It's just because it really does conflict with a lot of the people in their party. Yeah. Where, the environmental regulations, it conflicts with some of the labor stipulations, things like that. So it's kind of interesting, but I do think that provided some of the catalyst.
No, you're right.
For the reform this year.
In fact, you probably noticed on your way walking to the floor yesterday, there was all the CEQA protesters. There was all the environmentalist protesters, showing all the members.
Saw the signs.
Yep.
Yeah. They didn't say anything to me. They were just waving their signs. So I'm like, all right. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that shakes out within their party. But I'm just, I think the Republican leader, James Gallagher, gave a speech on 1:30 yesterday, I think, about how this is 10 years too late, basically, or probably more than that. But it's just been a long time where we've been calling for this change. And
they actually, the majority party amended AB 130 because of labor opposition.
Yeah. Well, and I think, there will be there was a deal struck, and then now there's some tweaks being made to it.
Yep.
So, it's interesting. There's a few things, actually, that need to be fixed in those bills.
Yeah.
This is the problem with, number one, doing policy in your budget bills. But number two, doing everything last minute is, there's always mistakes. So we're going to have to do some follow-up cleanup bills. Yeah. I'm hoping we can get some of the bad stuff cleaned up.
Yeah, for sure, which is why we do budget bills all year long.
Yep.
Once they start, ridiculous. It never ends.
Another big story today. So we're recording this on July 1st. Okay. So the day that we're recording this, gas tax goes up again.
Yep.
So congratulations, everyone. Thank your supermajority leadership on that one for a bill. I think that passed in 2017 was the SB1. I believe it was the gas tax increase that basically set into motion perpetual gas tax increases every single July 1st.
Yep.
Just very maddening. I know the Republicans have tried to slow that down without success. We also introduced AB 12 this year, which is trying to go after these new low carbon fuel standard mandates that are also going into effect today, right?
Today.
Yeah. So that are the California Air Resources Board itself said are going to raise gas prices by at least 47% cents per gallon. Yeah.
47 cents.
47
and then, of course,
cents.
they walk that back because I think the governor is like, what are you doing?
So you take a 3-cent gas tax increase combined with a 47-cent minimum, by the way.
Yeah.
Some projections have it 65 cents and even higher.
Like going up.
Yeah,
even.
like going up and over the next decade by over $1. So, I mean, you take that. So today, 50-cent increase essentially that is, that's coming to gas prices near you, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just insane. It's absolutely insane.
Well, and they're trying to act like the low fuel standard program, how it's not going to increase gas prices that much. That's the intent of it. The intent of that program is to get people off fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And to do that is to make gas expensive.
That is like one of the craziest things about it is when Newsom was really upset that CARB came out and said how much it was going to cost.
Exactly.
He was mad because people got upset for obvious reasons. Like, why would you do this to our gas? Because it's your policies, right? But at the end of the day, that is the goal,
That's
right?
the goal.
The goal is to disincentivize people from driving gas-powered cars.
Yep.
And it is such I think, it's just like so much social engineering that they're trying to do to get people off of gas-powered cars, as opposed to just like, number one, letting consumers have the choice to drive what they want to drive, but number two, just actually help working families, right? That probably can't afford an electric vehicle right now in the current state of where electric vehicles are in terms of cost, right?
Yeah.
So,
but the problem with them saying the number out loud is because his boogeyman is the oil companies, right? Like that's who he makes the boogeyman. So it's like if his own department or agency says it's going to go up by 47 cents, like that's admitting that his policies are the reason the gas prices are so expensive, and he doesn't want to admit that.
Right. Totally. Yeah. So, and this is, I mean, they should be talking about the cost to consumers, right? I think that's a really important part. I think I have a colleague with a bill that would require them to do that, to actually mention the cost and analyze the cost of all these regulations. Yeah. But yeah, it was funny to see them walk that back really quickly. Like, oh no, never mind. What did they say? I don't even remember.
They said we're not in the business of predicting retail fuel prices.
Right, yeah. So they totally walked it back and were like, never mind. It's not going to cost 47 cents. Yeah. We all know what's going to happen. As of Wednesday of last week, the current average for state, this is in the LA Times, is $4.64 per gallon in California right now, which is insane. It is 17 cents less than last year, which is interesting.
Just because gas prices globally are down.
But it's still, I believe, either the highest or the second highest in the entire country right now. Yeah. In terms of gas prices. My uncle just drove out from Boise to visit my dad, and it was he was like, wow.
I know. Well, the funny thing is my daughter and I, we drove to Mammoth, and you go through Nevada just for like a half hour, and I got gas there on the way there.
So smart.
And on the way
why
back.
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Because going like Eastern California, it was like $6.50.
That's so insane.
The whole time.
My uncle was like, "This is well," and I was kind of joking with him. I'm like, "Hey, at least you get to go back to Boise."
Yeah, exactly.
And like, you only have to fill up here once. I have to fill up here every day, or my wife has to fill up here every week, right? So.
Oh yeah, you have a.
I don't fill up.
You don't. To
be fair,
you
but
have an electric car.
But when I fill I always, whenever I borrow my wife's car, I don't know. Is this? I'm going to ask you as a woman. Okay, do you pay attention to how much gas you have left in your vehicle?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Of course. I mean, Well, plus it notifies you, like if you have, like if you're in between, like if you have, if my car notifies me if I have 50 miles left.
Okay. Nicole just drives me insane with this. Because, like, and I'll even ask her, I'm like, hey, you're getting a little low there, aren't you? She's like, well, the light's not on yet. I'm like, what do you mean the light's not on yet? You wait for the light? Like, and she's like, yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of like Nicole.
And then it stresses me out. I'm like, I'm driving and I stress out. So every time I borrow her car, I usually fill it up for her because I'm just like that.
Yeah.
And then, but oh my gosh, it's so expensive. It's crazy.
So I will like make a funny admission. I do not get my own gas.
My
husband fills up my gas all the time for me, unless I'm on a trip with my daughter and I have to do it. But
you're
otherwise,
like, Does Oregon still fill it up for you? Or okay, interesting. That's funny.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's shift a little bit more locally. So couple stories. We'll talk about them concurrently. So 2 stories in Sacramento specifically that I think a lot of our listeners are kind of in this region. So I think will be of interest to them. Number one, there's a new bill that's been introduced, SB 802, that would create a new Sacramento housing agency. Essentially, it would consolidate pretty much all of the local homeless operations into one agency, including, by the way, pulling a bunch of funding from all of the cities in our region that get money from impact fees to go to housing and homelessness. It would pull all of that under a single board that would be governed by, I believe it's 3 county supervisors, 3 City of Sacramento council members, 2 from Elk Grove, and then 1 from each of my cities, which are Folsom Rancho and Citrus Heights. Has not gotten a good response from the locals. Pretty much every mayor has called me opposed to it. Democrat and Republican supervisors have called me opposed to it. It's actually been an interesting how united everyone has been against it.
And I believe there's also a split in the city council as well.
Okay, and I haven't in Sacramento. You mean?
In Sacramento,
okay, got it.
In the city of Sacramento.
So, and I haven't actually heard from any of the Sacramento city council members, but definitely something that locally has been being discussed a lot lately. At the same time, Sacramento, the city of Sacramento, is proposing to, I don't know why this is so weird to even read. They're proposing to ban homeless or homeless individuals from sleeping at City Hall. I didn't know this was even happening.
Yeah. Well, I think is it only happening though at night and then they clear them out?
They don't allow it during the day.
Yeah.
So it would, but they do allow it at night.
Yeah.
But now this would, this by the way, and again, I know Mayor McCarty, and but I would say that it's interesting because it's one of the first stories I've seen out of Sacramento on homelessness at all. And he's actually kind of one of the ones pushing for this. Yeah. It just seems like such a tiny. I mean, I understand like why they're doing it, but it's just like, okay, but what else are we doing on homelessness? Like what are our other big initiatives going to be, right? Because there's been a lot of mayors across the city that have been very outspoken. Matt Mahan, probably most aggressively in San Jose, but even David Lurie, you know, in San Francisco now has been really doing things differently, than his predecessors.
And we haven't heard anything.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet in Sacramento.
It's been quiet.
And I will say, like, you and I walk around Sacramento a lot. It's not good.
It's sketchy.
It's not good.
It's super sketchy.
Around the Capitol. I mean, we don't even really go anywhere.
I know.
I have seen so much, like, just disgusting things in the last few weeks around the Capitol that it's just, like, not good for a downtown.
It's not.
It's not good for public health or safety. It's just, it's really hard.
So I remember last year you had a breakfast event and I was walking to it. So it was, I think they normally start at 8, right? So it was like 7 something. And I'm walking down 11th Street, like just like towards K, which used to be like vibrant and amazing. And I saw someone like doing meth. And I'm like, it's 7:30 in the morning, and you're doing meth out in the open, and I have to walk past that, and it disgusts me. Yeah. And then, just recently.
It's also just like unsafe, right, for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's just disgusting, and it's like, it's just so bad. Like, there's certain intersections that we have to go through all the time that are just, it's insane.
No, it's really hard to watch.
It is.
I feel like it's definitely not getting better.
No.
And so, I do think some things need to change. one thing we didn't mention in the budget discussion is, that was one of the reasons the governor had zero funding for Prop 36 in his budget, right? Yep. Initially, his budget proposal. We landed ultimately on something like $80 million, which is still woefully inadequate. And, I think we were calling for $400 million because law enforcement needs resources, and DAs and prosecutors, right, need resources to get people into treatment, right? I mean, these are people that actually need help. They need to get into treatment, but you need resources to do that. Yeah. And that's what Prop 36 is going to help do. So.
Yep, and the governor opposed it and just doesn't want to fund it. And the Dems actually had proposed $110 million originally.
Yeah, it was I think at one point it was even $200 million. There was like two different pots of money.
There was it was like 80.
Yeah, $89 million for something.
It was flexibility going to cities, and it was flexible to where they could use it for that, but they didn't have to. Right. So it was close to $200 million that could be used for Prop 36.
Yeah, which would have been awesome.
And then that got whittled down
to like 80.
Yeah. So unfortunate.
But I'm glad there's something in the budget. Hopefully it helps.
Better than nothing.
Last couple things, and then we'll move on to. Well, I guess our clip of the week and stuff.
Oh, that's
good. One of the big things is the return to office mandate, right? Let's talk about this briefly. It's starting to, as I sort of kind of suspected, actually, the governor is using his return to office mandate, which was supposed to be today. We're all actually doing this July 1st. There's a lot of things that are supposed to happen on July 1st.
Yeah.
Where state employees were supposed to go back to the office 4 days per week. He is now using it as bargaining leverage, kind of in every negotiation to sort of basically say, hey, we're not giving raises this year, or we're giving reduced raises or reduced, and there's actually some furlough talk going on, some different things because of the budget deficit. But we're going to delay the return to office mandate a year to 2026. So one of the MOUs we voted on yesterday was the professional engineers who got basically a 1-year reprieve from the return to office mandate, which basically just means you have to go in twice a week.
Yes.
So that is still in effect. Right? So.
Well, and of course you led a bipartisan letter to the governor requesting for it to be delayed.
Yeah.
And at least until the audit comes out, which is supposed to be this summer. I mean, when I spoke to the state auditor's office, they were thinking July.
Yeah.
But I know we'll get the heads up before it. It should be soon, though. It's got to be like this month or next month or coming up soon.
And we've actually had some people on that I've debated with on this topic. Like Tom Sheehy believes very strongly people should be coming back. I actually believe that there are definitely jobs that need to be done in person. And I think, your job is probably one of those. My job is definitely one of those, right? I mean, there are a lot of state employees that are already working in person that should continue to work in person. But there are so many jobs that just the state does not need to pay for an office building and maintenance and air conditioning and rent, to house an employee to do a job that can easily be done from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just not fiscally responsible, in my opinion. We have to find a targeted way to embrace telework for a pure budgetary cost-saving standpoint. I think it's, there are plenty of jobs where you can do that successfully. And I think, sometimes this issue gets oversimplified, and it's like, well, everyone should be back to work or no one should be back to work. And it's just like, it's really not an all or nothing thing. It's a what is appropriate to that job.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Like we can think
it doesn't
about
have to be, right?
We can think about things differently for sure.
Right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But SEIU contacted me yesterday as well about the audit. And they did say they also got the deal.
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that too. So that's a big one, obviously.
That's huge.
So it'll be interesting. We'll see where this lands. I feel like it's just kicking the can down the road because it's literally just.
But I'm happy because you know what? My drive into work today was fine. It was super good.
This was the day, right? When traffic was supposed to get a lot worse.
Yeah.
And, I will say that's one thing even when people in the Sacramento area disagree with me on this and say everyone needs to be back in the office, I ask them, I'm like, okay, that's fine. You have the full right to that opinion, right? But do you drive in on the freeways here? Have you been on Highway 50 lately?
Yeah.
Are you ready for them to be even more full? Because that is going to be your new reality. Yeah. And I think that's where I think people should be grateful.
I am grateful.
Even if you don't agree with it, it's like, well, let's look at least the silver lining there.
Right? Yeah, I'm grateful.
All right, last story. I just saw this piece in Capital Weekly that kind of caught my attention because I think I'm a co-author of this bill. I think. Anyway, it's concerns expressed about AB 1043.
You are a co-author.
So it's written. It's written from the perspective of how AB 1043 is actually going to hurt the LGBT community.
Yeah.
Which I thought. I mean, I read through it and I can kind of highlight some of it, but essentially to set the stage, AB 1043 would essentially create a framework for the producers of the hardware of devices. So your smartphones, your iPads, things like that, to within the hardware have an ability for a parent or guardian to verify your age within the hardware when you set up the device. So that you can say the person using this device, for example, is a minor. That information would then be available to any app that you might download, right? That you give permission, right, to obviously to download. This really comes into play mostly for social media, right? Things like that, where one of the big challenges with regulating social media for minors, which I think the research is showing a lot of harms from social media for developing brains and young people and teenagers and things, and increasing suicide rates, all of these different harms. One of the challenges has always been, how do you verify the age of the individual while protecting their privacy? This really allows the person that sets up the device to do that, to kind of voluntarily offer that information, which would then communicate out to these apps the age of the user. So then there can be no excuses for access to different things, right?
Yeah.
So this would really open up a lot of really, I think, good policy options for policymakers to, allow content restrictions by age, right?
Yeah.
But this has always been the big challenge, has been how do you verify the age? So, there's still a lot of things being worked out on this bill. Buffy Wicks is the author of this bill. I've co-authored it. I think it's a really important next step in sort of protecting our young people. But this article really points out a lot of ways that this will hurt the LGBT community because it would restrict access to social media and things like that. I think that these I don't know if you read the piece, but I think that the concerns are a little overblown.
Yeah.
I think there's still obviously I know there's a lot of communities on social media that people have found, right, and are very meaningful to them. But I think just on balance, like for people under 16, I mean, we have to be really careful about the social media thing.
Yeah,
that's
agree.
why we fought for the Phone Free Schools Act. That's why we're just trying to protect kids kind of from themselves a little bit.
Yeah. At the end of the day, there's more harm than good.
There's way more harm.
Yeah.
I mean, and you look at, even the suicide rate in the LGBT community, right? I mean, I'm sure that people have a lot of different theories on that, but my opinion is that, there is a huge impact of social media on that. I mean, we've seen since 2010, when social media really started becoming more prevalent, we've seen suicide rates, mostly actually for girls, young girls, skyrocket, but also for young boys and among the LGBT community. So anyway, it's an interesting piece, but
it is interesting. But I think at the end of the day, social media, I think you're in the right, you have the right policy mind for that, because I think that you've done a lot of research and you realize that it does a lot of harm to our young people. And I think that we need to be, conscientious of that and try to do what we can to protect them.
Yeah.
Like you said, even from themselves, you know, it's at what age do you need to, and every parent's different, but at what age do you need to start getting on social media?
Yeah.
Because I just feel like it's not great for socialization, and it's not great for, if that's where they're doing all their socializing is on social media. That's not very healthy.
It's definitely not healthy. And there's also a lot of fentanyl issues. Kids have been getting fentanyl through Snapchat, and I feel like whenever I talk about this issue, I sound like an old person. I sound like
like an adult,
like what my dad would talk about with video games or something. But the reality is that we, it gives you access to a world that we didn't have access to, right?
Exactly.
And then it also interrupts your ability to connect with people face to face. And I think that's another big part of it.
There's nothing that I find more frustrating when I'm like at a restaurant or somewhere and I'll see like a group of young adults come in and I just see them all on their phone.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's like my thing.
I know, right?
I really don't like a lot of that. So anyway, I think
that's hard.
I think that you have the right policy position. So
yeah, well,
I'm
we'll
good
see.
with it.
And we're going to continue working with all the different stakeholders, including the opposition. But it's just, it's an interesting policy objection to something that I really think ultimately is trying to help all of these kids. Right?
All of these kids. So, yeah, exactly. Agreed.
So are we going to do Babylon B? You want to do Babylon
B? We can. All right. Let's do it.
Satirical
I might not
relief,
get all.
right?
I might not get all of the.
I always go
jokes.
through the satire headlines.
Let's see what's funny.
Not always, actually, but if we have time, and I think we have time today. But I haven't really looked at these, so let's see what is in their latest news today. Elon sends Optimus robot back in time to terminate Big Beautiful Bill.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. I think the Optimus robot is his new humanoid robot.
Oh, okay.
Like it's like looks like a it doesn't have a face, but it's like it walks around. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I don't know how funny it is.
I don't know how funny that is, honestly. I'm like,
like I get
it. Just apologies in advance to my friends at Ford. I also own a Ford.
I do too. So.
Ford debuts world's first autonomous car to leave factory and drive straight to shop for repairs. That's kind of an unnecessary,
It is. Well, not only that, I've had really good luck with Fords.
I know.
I'm on my
I've never had a problem with my Ford. Oh, that's not that old.
I'm on my second Ford.
Okay, there you go. See, you heard it here. So maybe change that to something else.
Yeah, I like Ford.
That's funny though.
Yeah, that is funny.
Let's see. CNN reports viewership largely intact. Okay, that's pretty funny. Okay, like that is a good one.
It's super funny. Probably more funny from our perspective.
Yeah, I know. It's more funny, I think, if you're, not a CNN fan.
Yeah, exactly.
But their reporting on the Iran story was so awful. It was just so terrible on like the damage and everything. It was just crazy.
It really was.
It was so biased.
Very misleading.
Yeah. But that's fine.
I have Facebook friends that like completely ran with that CNN Iran story, and I'm like, I already know that it's like been debunked. It's like completely inaccurate. But okay.
So have you been following this New York mayor race? You have a little bit, right?
Yes,
like the primary went to this guy, Mamdani or whatever, over Cuomo or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So this one's pretty funny, and I think I just love hitting this guy whenever I can. But Mamdani clarifies he is not a communist. He merely wants to seize the means of production and put all the capitalists in gulags. So it's a little on the nose, but
Yeah, I've totally been following
some of the stuff he's actually said publicly, though, is insane.
He's insane. He's literally insane. And if New York votes for him in the general, it's going to be insane.
Yeah.
Just ruin your city. Go for it.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to do that to figure it out.
You do.
I mean, things have to hit rock bottom before you correct.
I feel like that happened in San Francisco, and San Francisco is correcting.
Yeah, no, I think in a lot of ways, San Francisco is
example.
ahead of New York in this, in this way, right? Where they're actually on the other side of like crazy, maybe.
They're ahead of New York. They're ahead of LA.
Let's see. Gavin Newsom sues Gavin Newsom for ruining his political career.
That's the best.
That's pretty good.
That's hilarious.
I mean, the amount of times he's suing everyone now is, we didn't even talk about the Fox News lawsuit or all of his other 1,000 lawsuits.
The Fox News lawsuit that he said, if they just apologize, I'll drop the suit. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a high level of confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, last one. Okay. Did you see the Jeff Bezos wedding?
I didn't. I heard about it.
$50 million wedding.
Yeah, I heard about it that it was going to be insane and stuff like that. It's just like, I can't. That's
so crazy.
It disgusts me, quite frankly.
Yeah, I know. That's what Nicole said, the exact same words. She's like, that's disgusting.
It is. It's gross. It really is.
But this one is Jeff Bezos' wedding, 100% funded by your wife's Amazon purchase.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. Yeah. But by the way, is that wedding number one? Because I'm pretty sure it's not.
No, it's his second marriage. But I bet it's his first $50 million wedding.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Is my guess. I think his other marriage was, there we go.
I think it's like the highest. I don't know. I think it might be the highest.
I also I heard his multiple day wedding. Who wants to go to a multi-day wedding? I'm sorry. I don't want to go to a multi-day wedding. I guess it was in Italy.
If it depends on what it offers. I don't know.
It was wild.
Somewhere. I don't know.
It's crazy.
But yeah.
So we'll close out here. We got a few minutes left.
Okay.
Gonna play a clip. And actually, I'm gonna queue up the clip. So give me a second here, because
break.
So, clip of the week is my colleague, actually my seatmate, Assemblymember Carl DeMaio, who wanted to share his thoughts on the Pride resolution a week ago or so. And kind of sort of things proceeded like this. So we'll get your thoughts on it after we play it.
But that's not what this resolution does. This resolution doesn't affirm, value, and respect the LGBT community. What this resolution does is it goes much further than that to endorse very controversial and extremist policy positions, which is very unique.
Mr. DeMaio,
it's very,
Mr. DeMaio, just
yes,
a moment,
Mr.
please.
Speaker.
Just a moment. Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold Mr. DeMaio's time? Sorry, I have a very important announcement today. Mr. Juan Carrillo, I understand it's your birthday today. Members, will you join me in wishing Mr. Carrillo a very happy birthday today? Wishing you many happy returns, Mr. Carrillo. Enjoy your day. Mr. DeMaio, you may continue.
And thank you for holding my time. So where we left off about the extremist views that are endorsed in this resolution, which includes ending girls' sports, the integrity of girls' sports, that is included in this resolution. That is not supported even by a majority of LGBT community members, let alone California voters. This resolution divides us when it should be uniting us. Can you imagine a time, and if you truly are being honest with yourself as a gay community member, if I had told you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that there will be a time in California where Republican politicians and Democrat politicians will unanimously put a yes vote on the record, not just lay off, but put a yes vote on the record in favor of a Pride resolution, you'd say that's impossible. But my friends, we could do that here today, but you chose not to. I offered the author
Mr. DeMaio, just one moment, please. Just a moment.
Are we going to have another birthday?
Excuse me, Mr. DeMaio. Just a moment. Mr. Reading Clerk, can you hold Mr. DeMaio's time? Members, you'll have to forgive me, but on Thursday last week, I forgot it was Damon Connolly's birthday. Can you please join me in welcoming a very happy birthday for Mr. Damon Connolly? We love you, Mr. Connolly. We love you so much. Mr. DeMaio, please continue.
Look, all the interruptions don't change the fact that this resolution lets down the LGBT community. We could have achieved a historic vote today. It will be misrepresented.
So, obviously, I think the first openly gay Republican legislator that we've had in California, speaking there to his policy objections to a resolution that honestly was unnecessarily filled with clauses that shouldn't, were very controversial.
I read the entire resolution.
It was,
Yes.
When, pretty much every Republican probably would have voted for a Pride resolution that was simply honoring and, respectful of the.
And it, and it had disputed claims in it too, like disputed studies, disputed claims. It wasn't.
No, it was not good.
It wasn't.
But I think what was even worse is our colleague, right, trying to give his perspective on it, which I think he did in a very reasonable way. I don't think that any of that was out of line.
No.
It was just very petty, right? Very petty to continue. By the way, we only played 2 interruptions. He got interrupted 4 times in his 5-minute speech. And it's not a good look. Actually, LA Times put out an opinion piece, and the SACB put out an opinion piece on how it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it was really petty. It was really a bad look. And I remember we were all in the office listening, of course, and watching floor session, and they interrupted him, and we're all like, what's happening? Yeah. And then it was a birthday, and we're like, what is he doing?
Yeah.
And, the lady was running the floor, Ella Ray, and Lowenthal came back up to do that, to interrupt. So that was pre-planned.
Yeah.
They knew he would speak on the Pride resolution.
Yeah.
And it was pre-planned, and it was super petty.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate.
Yeah, well, my biggest issue is the claim of the left that that we're destroying democracy, or all that kind of nonsense the rhetoric that gets put out there about democracy being under attack and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, what is that?
I know.
What is that? How is that any difference? You are not letting an opposition party speak
uninterrupted.
Yeah. Speak their opinion on something. He is an elected official.
Yeah.
He got elected by his constituents.
His
So how are they less valuable than your constituents?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's honestly, and he obviously handled it pretty well, but
he did.
I
surprisingly well, actually.
Yeah,
I was really impressed.
But I think at the end of the day, he wanted it to speak for itself, right?
Yeah.
The actions of the other side, this is, this can speak for itself, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't need to really say anything about it other than what he did. So this piece in the LA Times talked about kind of the election of DeMaio and how they really all fought to keep him out of the assembly, which they did, right?
Yes.
And then, how you can disagree with him as much as you possibly want, but to your point, he still has a right to speak on behalf of his constituents.
Exactly.
Right? And so it says, DeMaio, the Assemblyman's first openly gay Republican member, rose on the floor to voice his objections. Usually lawmakers have 5 minutes to offer their remarks without interruption. Not this time. And they talk about all the interruptions. Yeah, and so they even say, and what was the pressing matter that couldn't possibly wait a second longer? Wishing another Assembly Democrat a happy birthday.
I know. I just thought that was so outrageous. It was actually disappointing too.
Yeah, it says the hazing was great, good fun, and oh so clever, or they thought it was, but it wasn't. It was petty. It was stupid. And this is from a person that is not a conservative, right?
Yeah.
This is. But I did appreciate the perspective, right? I appreciated them calling, a couple of different papers actually calling out that sort of behavior, because I think it was beneath the body.
It was,
And you can hate someone's positions as much as you want, but having that mutual respect is really important.
Yeah, I mean, they're always talking about decorum and
for sure.
How you're supposed to show that, and who's talking about that all the time is Lowenthal.
Well, that's true too.
He's out there talking about speaking to the points of the bill, and using certain appropriate language, and speaking with decorum and acting with decorum, and that was the opposite of that.
So we're actually out of time,
okay.
But thanks for coming on. Any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I'm just, well, my final thought is I'm really looking forward to summer recess.
That is a good final thought.
It's coming
because
up.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Yeah.
So really looking forward to that. Our next episode, we're going to do one more episode before summer recess, which I think is going to be introducing Leticia Castillo, who's a new legislator in Southern California. So excited to have her on next time. For ideas for future shows, you can email pointoforderpod@gmail.com. Listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Watch, subscribe, or follow on YouTube, X, Instagram, Threads, and Facebook at Point of Order Pod. And follow me on X at Joshua_Hoover. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll do it again soon.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.